Every decade, some delusional Hollywood exec lights a pile of cash on fire and the fallout wipes out entire careers. We've seen a Bond director taken out by Korean War propaganda, Dan Aykroyd buried by his own comedy, and Sean Connery so fed up with the idiots he just walked away from Hollywood for good. These are 10 movie flops so hilariously bad they ended careers. Inchon's one of those stories you almost don't believe until you see the numbers. $46 million budget, funded by the Unification Church, and what did they get for it? About $5 million at the box office. Hollywood calls it one of the biggest commercial disasters ever made. And for director Terrence Young, the guy who did those early Bond movies, that was pretty much the end. The whole production was a mess from the start. They had storms wrecking equipment, political upheaval, scripts getting rewritten on the spot. Nothing ever went according to plan. Young himself watched it spiral out of control, and by the end, he just called it what it was, a Korean propaganda movie. The critics didn't pull any punches. Most called it incoherent, some called it the worst film of the decade. A few just said it was the worst war movie ever made. Young got a Razzie for Worst Director, and after that, never worked again. The fallout was huge. United Artists lost money on the distribution. One-Way Productions went under. Some estimates say the final losses were over $40 million, which today would be more than $120 million. And Laurence Olivier, who starred in it, was completely honest about his reasons: money. Nothing is beneath me if it pays well. Here's a classic case of just because you can doesn't mean you should. Dan Aykroyd's only shot at directing ended up being his last for a reason. Nothing But Trouble was a horror comedy with a stacked cast. Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore. $40 million budget, and it made just over $8 million. People hated it, critics hated it, and the studio buried it as fast as they could. Aykroyd's script and direction were called a sick joke. He ended up winning a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actor. And more importantly, this one film pretty much killed his chances of ever directing again. He'd taken on too many jobs, writing, directing, starring, and when it bombed, that was it. Even his clout as a leading man vanished overnight. After Nothing But Trouble, Aykroyd was pretty much relegated to ensemble and supporting roles. Bolero is one of those movies you watch and just wonder how anybody thought it was a good idea. Bo Derek, coming off Blake Edwards' 10 fame, stars in this erotic adventure directed by her husband, John Derek. It's set in the 1920s, a young woman on a worldwide quest to lose her virginity. There's a Moroccan sheikh, a Spanish bullfighter, and not much else. Producers apparently sent memos demanding more erotic scenes. Bo later said the studio forced it, but in her words, the film was already erotic enough. Either way, the result was an X rating, and the film was savaged for its cringe, earning Worst of the Decade status. Neither of the Dereks recovered. John directed one more bomb before calling it quits, and Bo Derek's career as a leading lady was basically finished. Aside from the occasional cameo, that was it. And the Cannon Group, the studio behind American Ninja and Masters of the Universe, also went under after this one. Here's how you end a director's career and make Al Pacino quit movies for 4 years, all in one shot. Revolution was supposed to be a big Revolutionary War drama starring Pacino, directed by Hugh Hudson, fresh off an Oscar nod for Chariots of Fire. They spent $28 million on this thing, and it made just over $300,000 at the box office. The film was rushed for a holiday release, went out half-baked, and critics immediately tore it apart for being muddled and miscast. Hugh Hudson's big-time Hollywood career was basically done after this. He managed only a few minor projects later on. The worst review came from Pacino himself, who had wanted Revolution to be a love letter to his own neighborhood in the South Bronx. Instead, he called it a disorienting experience and was appalled and shocked by how bad the movie was. He left movies after this and retreated to Broadway. It took 4 years to get him back in Hollywood. All due respect to Leah Thompson, honestly, I don't know what she was thinking. You've just done Back to the Future, and now you're in a movie where your character apparently has sex with an alien duck, and somehow this was supposed to be a superhero movie for kids. This thing cost over $30 million to make and barely made half that back. George Lucas is producing, there's a ton of hype, and then it just bombs at the box office. The director, Willard Huyck, never got to make another movie. The whole cast had a hard time finding work after this, and for Thompson, she even said it herself, "In the course of a year, I was in the biggest hit and the biggest bomb, so that probably destroyed my film career. Even though I did some good films after that, it was really difficult." On paper, this should have been a sure thing. British adventure comedy, Madonna and Sean Penn, both huge names at the time, and newlyweds for whatever that's worth. Instead, it turned into a disaster. The critics didn't just dislike it, they unleashed what one paper called volcanoes of critical abuse. My favorite, somebody actually called it flop suey. The movie picked up 5 Razzie nominations. Madonna took Worst Actress, and it barely scraped together $3 million at the box office on a $17 million budget. The fallout was instant. Director Jim Goddard, who'd actually built up a strong TV career, took the hit and pretty much disappeared from movies after this. He went back to television, and that was it for his film ambitions. Madonna's acting career didn't recover for years either. She spent most of the next decade trying to get people to take her seriously again, and it wasn't until Evita that anybody did. If you want to see what happens when a studio completely loses control of a movie, just look at Town and Country. This was supposed to be a light rom-com with Warren Beatty, Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, and Gary Shandling, a stacked cast. But everything that could go wrong did. Endless rewrites, reshoots, and delays ballooned the budget up to $90 million. By the time it limped into theaters, after almost 3 years and 12 different release dates, the studio basically gave up. Barely any ads, no premiere, and the cast didn't even show up to promote it. The movie only made $10 million. For Warren Beatty, this was the end of the line. He disappeared from Hollywood for the next 15 years. Goldie Hawn also went on hiatus after this. Beatty later said, "It's not my fault, but this was the flop that put his career on ice until 2016. He could very well afford it, though." Beatty still got paid $10 million, the biggest paycheck of his career, for a movie nobody saw. Everybody knows Pluto Nash as one of the biggest bombs in Hollywood history, but what gets overlooked is that it absolutely finished off the director's career. This thing cost about $100 million. Set on the moon, tons of reshoots, nothing worked. Eddie Murphy was the lead, but not even he could save it. The movie took in just over $7 million worldwide, and critics just destroyed it. Flat jokes, bad effects, the whole deal. It didn't even last in theaters. Ron Underwood, the director, guy who made Tremors and City Slickers, never got another big studio movie after this. He picked up a Razzie nomination for Worst Director, and after that, it was mostly TV work. Murphy himself hit a slump, but as for Underwood, that was pretty much the end. His only movie after this was a small release in 2005, and that was it. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez trying to headline a romantic crime comedy that just makes zero sense. The film managed to lose most of its $75 million budget, making only about $7 million. That's not even the real story, though. The movie broke 2 records for fastest box office drop-off ever, over 80% after opening weekend and a 97% drop after 2 weekends. It swept the Razzies, Worst Actor, Worst Actress, Worst Picture, and Worst Director for Martin Brest. This is the same guy who did Beverly Hills Cop and Scent of a Woman. Major hits, each earned over $80 million domestically. After this train wreck, he never directed, produced, or wrote another Hollywood movie. He called the final version a ghastly cadaver of a movie, and that was it. He just walked away. That felt like a clear signal it was time for me to back away. I had a good run, and I enjoyed success and freedom, and that was fantastic. I would have liked it to go on longer, but everybody likes everything to go on longer. On paper, it looks like it should work. Sean Connery, $78 million budget, Alan Moore's comic directed by Stephen Norrington, who'd just done Blade and was a rising star at the time. But the behind-the-scenes drama just poisoned the well. Connery and Norrington were fighting non-stop. Critics called the final product a stylish mess with CGI everywhere, and even though it technically made $179 million worldwide, after all the costs, it just broke even. The fallout was huge. Connery, after decades in the game, said, "I'm fed up with the idiots and quit acting for good." Norrington quit Hollywood too, didn't even show up to the premiere, never directed another feature. Both careers just done.